Vampires are a classic Western ghost character, and there are many different kinds of movies made, including Hollywood movies that feature vampires every year. There are both comedic ones like Fright Night and punk gang vampires like Lost Boys, and the most classic is Dracula. The latest one that is popular in both writing and movies is Twilight. There is also a TV show called Buffy Vampire Slayer that made Sarah Michelle Gellar very famous. One reason why vampires have always been a part of entertainment culture is because they are not just legends passed down by word of mouth. It is true that stories of vampires have been around since Greek mythology. In later eras, stories of bloodthirsty ghosts have been told all over Europe, all the way to the Balkans, and even in northern England and Ireland. But vampires are more than other types of ghosts because there have been real, official investigations into the existence of these non-human beings. The first vampire that was honored as real and was honored in world history occurred in the 17th century, referring to the name of Peter Polkajowicz, a young man who died in the war between Serbian Romania and the Austrian Empire in 1725, whose body was buried near the scene of the incident. But strange things happened because in the next 3 months, Peter returned to appear in the village of Kisilova in the Rom district, his hometown, which is now in Serbia. But the story is probably not as strange as when Peter returned to his village. There was an incident that caused 9 people in the village, whether children or old people, to die within a week. The symptoms of all 9 people who died were the same: gradually losing strength, face colorless, as if blood was being sucked out of the body, symptoms of high fever, hair color changed as if they had aged overnight, and everyone said before they died that while they were drowsy, they saw Peter Polkajowicz sneaking into the room. The corpse walked over and squeezed their necks until they could not move. When they lost consciousness, Peter was no longer seen, and symptoms of various diseases appeared. Those people lay on the bed and died one after another. It is worth noting that according to this record, biting to suck blood did not appear in the story. It is similar to the people who died. They died from some kind of infection that caused their internal organs to gradually stop working. Everyone had enough consciousness to see what happened to themselves clearly. The strange thing about all the bodies waiting for autopsy and burial was that their nails were longer, their hair, fur, and beard were longer than before, there was no foul smell, their skin was pale but did not turn green, and they looked like they were still alive. When the villagers, the city officials, and the monks went to arrest the important defendant in this case according to the victim's statement, the story turned out to be more complicated than before because he also died. According to his wife's statement, Peter lay like a person with no energy and died with the same symptoms. The investigation team asked to open the grave to see and found that he had the same symptoms as all 9 who died, no mistake. The strange thing is that several weeks later Peter, who died the second time, returned home to meet his wife again, but he did not return for romantic love, but because he was hungry and he came to get his favorite shoes. His wife got a fever and had to run away from the village immediately. Some witnesses said that Peter's wife said that he killed his son by sucking his blood. After that, there was news that Mr. Peter the vampire had wandered to different districts, causing people to be afraid. Finally, the investigation team led by Frumbald, sent by the Austrian Empire, along with monks from Veliko Gradist and the people who could not stand the crime, went back to dig up his grave again. This time, everyone was shocked because Mr. Peter's body still looked very fresh. The skin had regenerated. One monk who recorded it indicated that his nose had mucus. But what was shocking was his mouth, which looked bloody and very fresh. Some books say that there was blood in his mouth. When they saw this, the villagers rushed to take out the fresh body of the vampire Peter, hammered a stick into his chest, and pinned it to the table where it was placed until the blood gushed out along with screaming. The official record says that the villagers rushed to hammer several holes in the pegs because no matter how hard they tried, they could not die. While the vampire Peter was quiet because he was stuffed with a bunch of garlic in his mouth. Finally, when the pegs did not die, the officers slashed his head with a sword and poured oil on him and set him on fire. Vampire Peter died in this way. But a year later, another vampire appeared by the name of Arnold Paul, also a Serbian. This guy admitted before becoming a full-fledged vampire that while he was traveling home, he was attacked and bitten in the neck by a vampire. When he arrived, he was transformed into what he is now. But no one believed this story until at least 16 people died in the Meduegna area, which is located near the Morava River in the city of Parisien. Finally, the Kingdom of Austria had to send someone to come and investigate officially until it was confirmed that Arnold was a real vampire. The story of the existence of vampires and the use of human blood to survive spread throughout Europe since then. As for whether he survived because of love, or came to find true love across realms, or whether he could transform into a bat and have a werewolf as a pet, or even had the psychic power to make people unable to move, or the deception that a handsome man came to love and then bit the neck is something that the novelist invented later. Because according to the records, vampires attack each other directly, without beating around the bush, just like zombies. As for the standard method of killing vampires, most of them were created from legends. The main Christian prohibitions are, for example, some scriptures mention Judas, a disciple who betrayed Jesus, as the origin of vampires. Because the heavens were so angry that they cursed him to never see the moon or the sun and became evil spirits who did not know where to be reborn. Vampires hate light because they were cursed by God and have great power in the dark because it is Satan's driving force. Therefore, it is necessary to subdue vampires during the day to see sunlight. Killing vampires is also the opposite of the typical Christian funeral rites, because most are buried but not cremated. However, vampires must be cremated so that there are no more bodies left to be created because fire combines both heat and light. Some Eastern European legends also tell of another way to kill vampires, which is to drown them. Because vampires still breathe air and have elements that circulate like humans, drowning them is necessary because it suffocates them. The pin used to drive the chest or heart was also necessary. In the early days, the pin was made of ash wood because it was hard, heavy, and easy to sharpen. When driving through the chest, it would be tight. But later, especially after Bram Stoker's novel Dracula became popular, the pin was changed to steel instead, which was heavier, tighter, and could do more harm to the vampire than other parts. The process after driving the pin was to cut off the head. This may have been partly because it did not give the vampire a chance to heal or rebuild his body. Or it may have been a symbolic act that would prevent the vampire from sucking blood down his throat again. Garlic is another thing that vampires dislike. But the reason why they disliked it was in the 80s when scientists proposed a theory that human vampirism was caused by a blood disease in the body that caused receding gums, protruding teeth, and severe sensitivity to sunlight, causing burning pain when exposed to a lot of light. This disease is very incompatible with garlic because it kills some blood cells in the patient.